The silent galaxy. The Galactic Council's emergency meeting hall had never been this quiet. Ambassador Zexhai of the Vorthan Empire looked around the massive chamber, counting the empty seats where entire species once sat. 47 civilizations. Gone. Vanished without a trace over the past decade. The hunting ships appeared 3 days ago in the Kepler system, announced Council Speaker Morden, his forearms trembling as he activated the holographic display. The crystalline cities of New Haven, they're nothing but dust now. The hologram showed what remained of humanity's newest colony. 12 million humans had called that world home just 72 hours ago. Now, only cracked glass and melted metal remained where their beautiful crystal towers once touched the sky. Zexhai's scales rippled with fear. The hunters had found humanity. For 10 years, these mysterious beings had swept across the galaxy like a plague. They came without warning, took everything that breathed, and left behind only empty worlds. No one knew where they came from. No one knew what they wanted with the captured species. The only thing everyone knew was that when the hunters came for you, resistance was pointless. The Thekwar tried to fight them with their legendary battle fleets. Their ships were found drifting empty in space, crews gone, weapons unfired. The Mindari attempted to hide in pocket dimensions. The hunters pulled them out anyway. The machine intelligence of Nexus Prime tried to upload their consciousness to distant servers. Even digital beings couldn't escape. "We must warn the humans," whispered Counselor Veltar from the Water Worlds. "They don't know what's coming." "What's the point?" Speaker Mordoon's voice carried the weight of defeat. "No species has ever survived a hunter encounter. The humans will be just another empty entry in our records." But Ambassador Zexhai wasn't so sure. In his long years serving the Council, he had studied every species that joined their galactic community. Most were peaceful traders, scientists, or philosophers. A few were warriors, but humans were different. They were the only species he'd ever encountered that seemed to enjoy fighting impossible odds. The holographic display shifted, showing hunter ships surrounding Earth's outer colonies. Massive black vessels that looked more like living creatures than machines. Their biomechanical hulls pulsed with a sickly green light, and tentacle-like appendages reached out to grab anything that moved. "The pattern is always the same," Mordun continued. "They start with the outer settlements, work their way inward, then hit the homeworld last. Based on their current position, Earth has maybe 2 weeks before." The transmission cut to static. Zexhai's blood ran cold. The hunters had found the council chambers. Emergency alarms blared throughout the station as massive shadows passed by the viewing ports. The hunt had begun again, and this time, they were the prey. "All species to evacuation pods," Speaker Morden shouted, but his words were drowned out by a sound that made everyone's worst nightmares seem pleasant. It was the hunting cry of the creatures that had emptied half the galaxy. As Zexhai ran toward the escape pods, one thought kept echoing in his mind. Every other species had begged for mercy when the hunters came. They had tried to negotiate, to hide, to run. But humans? What would humans do when they realized they were being hunted? He had read their history files. Humans didn't run from predators. They became them. The last thing Zexhai saw before his escape pod launched was a hunter ship latching onto the council station like a parasite. But instead of fear, he felt something he hadn't experienced in 10 years of watching civilizations disappear. Hope. Somewhere out there, humanity was about to learn that they were on someone's menu. And if Zexhai understood humans correctly, they were about to teach the galaxy's apex predators what it really meant to be prey. The hunt was coming to Earth. But perhaps, for the first time in a decade, the hunters had finally chosen the wrong target. First Contact Captain Sarah Martinez was having her morning coffee when the universe changed forever. The bridge of the UES Defiance was quiet during the gamma shift. Most of the crew was asleep as their patrol ship drifted through the outer rim of the solar defense grid. Sarah liked these peaceful moments. As humanity's first line of defense, she rarely got to enjoy the calm between emergencies. "Captain," called out Lieutenant Chen from the communication station, "I'm picking up some kind of transmission. It's weird." "Weird how? It's not coming from any human frequency, and the signal keeps cutting in and out. But ma'am, I think someone's trying to warn us about something." Sarah set down her coffee and walked over to Chen's station. After 15 years in the Space Navy, she'd learned to trust her crew's instincts. "Put it through the main speakers." Static filled the bridge, followed by a voice speaking in broken English with an accent she'd never heard before. "Human ships. Listen, please. Hunters coming. You must prepare. They take everyone. No one survives." The transmission dissolved back into static. "That's all I can clean up, Captain," Chen said. "The signal's too weak and fragmented. Sarah's training told her to report this to command and let the experts handle it. But her gut told her something different. Someone had risked their life to warn humanity about a threat. The least she could do was listen. "Chen, keep working on that signal. Williams, run a deep space scan. Look for anything that doesn't belong out there." "Yes, ma'am," both officers replied. 3 hours later, Williams found something. "Captain, you need to see this." His voice was tight with controlled panic. "Long-range sensors are picking up massive contacts at the edge of the system. They're big, ma'am. Really big." The main screen lit up with sensor data that made Sarah's blood freeze. 12 objects, each the size of a city, were moving toward Earth at impossible speeds. Their energy signatures were unlike anything in human records. "How long until they reach Earth?" she asked. "At current velocity, 14 hours. Sarah grabbed the communication console. "This is Captain Martinez of the UES Defiance to Sol Command. We have 12 unknown contacts approaching Earth. Request immediate backup and..." Her words died in her throat as the sensor display updated. The 12 contacts had become 24, then 48, then 96. They were multiplying. "Captain," Chen's voice was barely a whisper, "I cleaned up more of that transmission. You're going to want to hear this." The bridge speakers crackled to life again, and this time the voice was clearer. "Hunters have taken 47 species. They collect living beings for unknown purpose. Resistance is futile. We are the Galactic Council, or what's left of us. Humans are their next target. They will start with outer colonies, then move to homeworld. You have perhaps 2 weeks. We pray you find way to survive where we could not." Sarah stared at the sensor display as more contacts appeared. The edge of human space was filling up with hunter ships like antibodies responding to an infection. "Ma'am," Williams called out, "I'm reading massive energy buildups from the lead ships. I think they're charging weapons." That's when Sarah made the decision that would change everything. Instead of running, instead of calling for reinforcements that wouldn't arrive in time, instead of trying to negotiate with creatures that had apparently wiped out 47 civilizations, Captain Sarah Martinez did something that no other species had tried. She smiled. "Chen, open a channel to those ships. Full power." "Captain, you heard me. Open a channel." "Ma'am, are you sure that's..." "Open the channel, Lieutenant." The static cleared, and for the first time in galactic history, a human voice spoke directly to the hunters. "Attention, unknown vessels. This is Captain Sarah Martinez of the United Earth Space Navy. You are entering human territory without permission. You have 30 seconds to change course, or we will consider your actions hostile." The bridge crew stared at their captain in stunned silence. One small patrol ship was challenging an invasion fleet that had conquered half the galaxy. 29 seconds passed. On the main screen, the lead hunter ship's energy signature spiked. A beam of coherent energy that could melt a moon shot toward the Defiance. Sarah's smile grew wider. "Well," she said as she activated the ship's combat systems, "looks like they want to do this the hard way. Chen, send a message to Earth. Tell them the hunters are here, and we're going to show them what happens when you hunt the wrong species." The energy beam struck the Defiance's shields, and the real war began. But as the tiny human ship somehow survived the attack that should have vaporized it, something unprecedented happened in the hunter fleet. For the first time in their long history of conquest, they encountered prey that shot back, and more importantly, prey that seemed to be enjoying it. The Hunt Begins Admiral Rebecca Stone had seen a lot of impossible things during her 30-year career, but watching a single patrol ship survive 3 direct hits from city-sized alien warships definitely topped the list. "How is the Defiance still in one piece?" she asked her tactical officer aboard the UES Vengeance, humanity's flagship and most powerful vessel. "Unknown, ma'am. Their shields should have failed after the first shot, but somehow they're not just surviving, they're actually fighting back." Rebecca watched the tactical display in fascination. Captain Martinez's ship was dancing between the massive hunter vessels like a mosquito harassing elephants, and somehow the mosquito was winning. "Ma'am," called out her communications officer, "Captain Martinez is requesting permission to implement something called the Martinez maneuver." "The what now?" "She says it's something she's been thinking about for situations exactly like this." Rebecca almost laughed. Leave it to humans to develop tactics for fighting impossible odds before they even knew those odds existed. Permission granted, and patch me through to the fleet. Every human ship within a light year had responded to the emergency call. Destroyers, cruisers, carriers, and support vessels were streaming toward Earth at maximum burn. It was the largest gathering of human military might in history. "All ships, this is Admiral Stone. We're facing an enemy that has apparently conquered 47 other species. They're bigger than us, more advanced than us, and they outnumber us about 50 to 1. She paused, looking around the bridge at her crew. Instead of fear, she saw excitement in their eyes. In other words, it's a fair fight. All ships, engage at will. What happened next would be studied in military academies for generations. The Martinez maneuver turned out to be brilliantly simple and completely insane. Instead of trying to match the hunter's firepower, human ships used their superior speed and maneuverability to get inside the aliens' defensive perimeters. Once there, they targeted what appeared to be sensory organs along the hunter ship's biomechanical hulls. The results were immediate and spectacular. Blinded hunter vessels began firing on each other. Their perfect formation collapsed into chaos as ships collided or drifted into asteroid fields. "Admiral," her tactical officer reported with barely contained glee, "we're actually winning." But Rebecca's celebration was cut short by an urgent transmission from Earth Defense Command. "Admiral Stone, we have a problem. Long-range sensors are detecting hunter activity throughout the outer colonies. They're not just attacking our ships, they're landing on our worlds." The holographic display updated to show the true scope of the hunter offensive. While their main fleet kept the human navy busy, smaller groups had split off to attack civilian targets throughout human space. New Beijing. Gone. Population of 8 million simply vanished. Europa. Station. Empty. The massive orbital research facility looked like a ghost ship. All its inhabitants disappeared without a trace. Mars Colony 7. Silent. No response to any communications. They're following the same pattern they used on the other species, Rebecca realized. Take the civilians first, then deal with the military. That's when she understood the hunters' biggest mistake. Every other species they'd encountered kept their warriors and civilians separate. Professional soldiers fought while non-combatants hid. But humans were different. On human worlds, everyone was a potential combatant. "Admiral," her communications officer called out, "I'm getting reports from the colonies. You're going to want to hear this." The first transmission came from a farming community on Kepler 442b. "This is Mayor Davidson of New Montana. We've got about 50 of those bioships landing in our fields. They're deploying some kind of collection teams. But here's the thing, Admiral. These critters apparently don't know about the Second Amendment. The sound of gunfire and explosions echoed through the transmission. We've got hunting rifles, shotguns, and enough pissed-off farmers to make Custer's last stand look like a tea party. These hunters picked the wrong species to mess with. More transmissions flooded in from across human space, from the asteroid miners. These things thought we were easy targets because we're just miners. Apparently they've never seen what mining explosives can do to organic tissue. From the research stations, the xenobiology team wants me to tell you that these hunters have some fascinating vulnerabilities. Also, our chemistry department has created several compounds that seem to be quite toxic to their biology. From the merchant marine. Cargo ships are combat ships now, Admiral. We're ramming these things at full burn. For humanity. Rebecca smiled as she realized what was happening. The hunters had spent 10 years perfecting their techniques against species that fought like civilized beings. They were facing an enemy that followed rules of war, that separated military and civilian targets, that surrendered when defeat seemed inevitable. They had never faced humans. All ships, she announced to the fleet. Change of plans. We're not defending Earth. We're going hunting. On the main screen, a hunter command ship the size of Manhattan was bearing down on their position. Its biomechanical hull pulsed with malevolent energy, and weapon ports along its sides were charging for a devastating attack. Rebecca's smile matched the one Captain Martinez had worn an hour earlier. "Weapons," she called to her tactical officer. "Target that thing's ugly face and fire everything we've got." The war for humanity's survival had begun. But as the hunters were about to learn, they weren't the only species that enjoyed a good hunt. The Tide Turns commander Jake Reaper Morrison was having the best day of his military career, and he was currently falling through the atmosphere of an alien world with nothing but a parachute and enough explosive charges to level a city block. "Reaper, to all hell divers," he called into his helmet, as the ground rushed toward him. "Remember, these things have been hunting civilizations for 10 years. Time to show them what it feels like to be prey." The planet below was one of the hunters' collection worlds, where they processed captured species for unknown purposes. Intelligence suggested millions of beings from dozens of worlds were held in massive biomechanical facilities across the surface. Humanity's response was typically direct. If the hunters wanted to collect people, they'd have to deal with an entire regiment of Earth's most dangerous soldiers dropping directly onto their heads. Jake hit the ground running, his powered armor absorbing the impact as he rolled into cover behind what looked like an organic tree made of metal and bone. Around him, 200 other helldivers were landing with similar grace, their black armor making them nearly invisible in the alien twilight. "Reaper," came the voice of his second-in-command, Lieutenant Sarah Cross. "You need to see this." Jake followed her pointing finger toward a structure in the distance that defied description. It was part building, part living creature, stretching up into the sky like a twisted cathedral made of flesh and machinery. Thousands of pods hung from its sides like fruit, each one containing a humanoid figure. "The collection facility," Jake whispered. "How many species do you think are in there?" "Sensors are reading biosignatures from at least 30 different worlds," Cross replied. "Jake, some of these readings are human. That changed everything." The Helldivers had come to strike a blow against the Hunter's infrastructure. Now they were on a rescue mission. All teams, new priority, Jake announced. "We're not just here to blow things up anymore. We're here to bring people home." The assault on the collection facility was unlike anything in human military history. The Helldivers moved through the biomechanical corridors like ghosts, their advanced weapons cutting through Hunter defenders that had never faced opponents who fought with such precision and fury. But the real surprise came when they reached the collection chambers. "Commander," Cross called out as she examined one of the containment pods. "These beings aren't unconscious. They're awake and aware. The Hunters have been keeping them alive and conscious this whole time." Jake felt his anger shift into something colder and more dangerous. The Hunters weren't just collecting species for unknown purposes. They were torturing them, keeping millions of beings trapped in a waking nightmare for years. Reaper, to orbital command, he called into his comm. Change of mission parameters. We're not just rescuing prisoners. We're burning this entire world to the ground. Above the planet, Admiral Stone was dealing with her own revelations. The human fleet had pushed deep into Hunter territory, and what they found defied their worst expectations. Dozens of worlds, all converted into vast collection facilities. Billions of beings from across the galaxy, held in conditions that made concentration camps look like luxury resorts. The Hunters weren't just predators, they were slavers on a galactic scale. Admiral, her intelligence officer reported, we're detecting similar facilities throughout Hunter space. Conservative estimates suggest they're holding over 1 trillion sentient beings. Rebecca stared at the numbers in horror. 1 trillion people, trapped and tortured by creatures that viewed them as nothing more than livestock. Ma'am, incoming transmission from the Galactic Council refugee fleet. Ambassador Zexhi's image appeared on the main screen, his alien features showing amazement and hope in equal measure. Admiral Stone, we have been monitoring your military actions. What your species is accomplishing should be impossible. No civilization has ever successfully attacked Hunter positions. With respect, Ambassador, Rebecca replied, no civilization has ever been as pissed off as we are right now. I do not understand this term. Rebecca smiled grimly. It means we're angry, Ambassador. Really, really angry. And when humans get angry, we stop following the rules. On the surface below, Jake was proving her point. The Helldivers had abandoned all conventional military tactics in favor of what they called creative problem-solving. Instead of attacking the facility's defenses, they had released all the prisoners first, armed them with captured Hunter weapons, and turned the facility into a war zone from the inside out. Reaper to orbital, Jake called as explosions bloomed around him. We've got about 10,000 freed prisoners down here, and they are not happy with their former captors. Request immediate pickup for refugee transport. Copy that, Reaper. But you might want to see this first. Jake's helmet display lit up with tactical data from across the planet. Similar uprisings were happening at every collection facility as news of the human rescue spread. Species that had been considered extinct were fighting back with a fury that matched humanity's own rage. Admiral, Jake said with a grin that was audible even through the comm. I think we just started something big. He was right. Across the galaxy, on every world where the Hunters had established collection facilities, the same pattern was emerging. Human forces would assault the facilities, free the prisoners, and arm them with captured weapons. The former prisoners, driven by years of pent-up rage and desperation, would turn on their captors with a violence that shocked even the humans. The species the Hunters thought they had conquered were rising up, and humanity was showing them how to fight back. All ships, Rebecca announced to the human fleet, prepare for fleet-wide assault. We're not stopping at one world. We're going to hit every collection facility in Hunter space. Admiral, her tactical officer warned, that's over 200 worlds. We don't have the ships or personnel for an operation that size. Rebecca's smile was worthy of Captain Martinez herself. Who said anything about us doing it alone? We've got about 1 trillion very angry allies who are just waiting for someone to show them how to fight back. The hunt was about to become a revolution, and humanity was leading the charge. The Hunters become the hunted 6 months after first contact. The Hunter Empire was collapsing. What had once been an unstoppable force that conquered civilizations with ease was now a broken collection of scattered fleets running from an enemy they couldn't understand. The Hunters had faced resistance before, but never anything like humanity. Other species fought to survive. Humans fought to win. Captain Sarah Martinez, now promoted to Admiral after her heroic stand at Earth, stood on the bridge of the newly constructed UES Revenge. Around her, holographic displays showed the strategic situation across the galaxy. It was beautiful in its simplicity. Every red dot representing a Hunter position was surrounded by blue dots, representing the combined forces of humanity and their liberated allies. The Hunters had become the hunted. Admiral, her tactical officer reported, we're receiving surrender requests from Hunter facilities across the Andromeda Arm. That's the 15th sector to capitulate this week. Sarah nodded, but her expression remained grim. The war was far from over. Intelligence reports suggested the main hunter fleet was consolidating around their homeworld, preparing for a final battle that would determine the fate of the galaxy. Any word from the liberation fleets? Yes, ma'am. The Thekwar battle fleets report successful recapture of their home system. The Crystalline Collective has rebuilt their cities on New Haven, and the machine intelligences of Nexus Prime are back online and very interested in studying hunter technology. Sarah smiled at that. The AI Collective had been particularly creative in their revenge against the hunters, developing computer viruses that turned hunter bioships against each other. Apparently, being digitally dead for 10 years had given them some interesting ideas about cybernetic warfare. And the Galactic Council, reformed on Sanctuary Station with representatives from 87 species. Ambassador HFY wants to award humanity the Council's highest honor for liberating the galaxy. Tell the ambassador we'll accept the honor after we finish the job. Because the job wasn't done. Yes, humanity had freed billions of prisoners and destroyed most of the hunter collection network. Yes, they had turned the galaxy's victims into an army of liberation, but the core of the hunter empire still existed. Still threatened every free species in the galaxy. Admiral, came a new voice from the communication station. Incoming transmission from Admiral Stone aboard the Vengeance. Rebecca's image appeared on the main screen, and Sarah could see the determined set of her mentor's jaw. Behind her, the bridge of humanity's flagship buzzed with activity as the fleet prepared for their final assault. Sarah, we've found it. The hunter homeworld. Coordinates. Transmitting now. But Sarah, you need to see what we're dealing with. The holographic display shifted to show a system unlike anything in human records. At its center was a star that had been partially converted into some kind of massive biomechanical structure. Around it, 12 worlds orbited in perfect formation, their surfaces covered in the same organic architecture they'd seen on the collection worlds. Spectral analysis suggests the entire system is artificial, Rebecca continued. The hunters didn't just conquer these worlds, they created them. We're looking at their entire civilization condensed into one system. Sarah studied the tactical display. Thousands of hunter ships patrolled the system's borders, and the energy readings from the modified star suggested weapons that could destroy entire fleets. What's our plan? Rebecca's smile was pure predator. We're going to do what humans do best. We're going to pick a fight we can't win and win it anyway. The final battle began 3 days later. The combined human and allied fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the hunter system like an avalanche of righteous fury. Over 10,000 ships representing every free species in the galaxy, all united under human tactical command. The hunters met them with everything they had. The battle that followed would be remembered as the most savage space engagement in galactic history. Hunter bioships the size of moons grappled with human dreadnoughts while swarms of fighters from dozens of species filled the space between worlds. But the real battle was taking place on the surface of the hunter homeworlds, where teams of liberated prisoners were systematically destroying the infrastructure that had supported 10 years of galactic oppression. Admiral Martinez came a transmission from the surface of Hunter Prime. This is Reaper Morrison. You're not going to believe what we found down here. Jake's image appeared on screen, and behind him, Sarah could see the interior of what looked like a vast organic computer system. We found their central intelligence, Admiral, the thing that's been coordinating the hunt across the galaxy. And Admiral, it's not what we expected. Explain. It's not a computer or an AI. It's a collective consciousness made up of representatives from every species they've conquered over the past 1,000 years. The hunters aren't just slavers, Admiral. They're a prison. Every mind they've captured is trapped in this collective, forced to help plan the conquest of their own kind. Sarah felt her blood run cold. The implications were staggering. Every species the hunters had conquered was still alive, trapped in a nightmare of forced cooperation with their captors. Can we free them? Jake's grin was visible even through his helmet's faceplate. Already working on it, Admiral. Turns out the collective has been waiting centuries for someone to give them a chance to turn the tables on their captors. What happened next changed the course of the battle in an instant. Across the hunter system, Bioships began turning on each other as the collective consciousness rebelled against its captors. Weapons that should have targeted human ships instead fired on hunter command centers. Defense networks designed to protect the homeworlds began systematically destroying hunter infrastructure. In less than an hour, 1,000 years of hunter civilization began collapsing from within. Admiral, her communications officer, called out, "We're receiving a transmission from the Hunter Collective." The voice that came through the speakers was a harmony of thousands of different species, all speaking as one. "People of Earth," the collective said, "we are the voices of those who came before you. For 1,000 years we have waited for someone to show us that resistance was possible. You have given us hope. You have given us freedom. And now we give you victory." On the main display, the modified star at the system's heart began to pulse with new colors as the collective turned the hunter's own ultimate weapon against them. "This system will be cleansed," the collective announced. "The hunt ends here. The galaxy is free." Sarah watched as the hunter homeworlds began to crack and burn, their biomechanical surfaces consuming themselves in cleansing fire. Around her, the bridge crew stood in stunned silence as a 1,000-year reign of terror came to an end. "Admiral," her tactical officer whispered, "it's over. The hunters are finished." But Sarah was thinking about the future, about the trillions of freed beings who would need help rebuilding their civilizations, about the new alliances that would form between species united by their shared struggle for freedom, about humanity's place in a galaxy that would never be the same. "No," she said quietly. "It's not over. It's just beginning." 6 months later, Ambassador Sarah Martinez, she had accepted a diplomatic post after the war, stood before the reformed Galactic Council as representatives from over 100 species applauded her species' contribution to galactic freedom. "The humans have shown us something we had forgotten," Ambassador HFY said as he presented humanity with the Council's highest honor, that predators are only dangerous until someone decides to hunt them back. Sarah accepted the award on behalf of her species, but her mind was already on the future. Humanity had saved the galaxy from the hunters, but the universe was vast and full of dangers yet unknown. Somewhere out there, new threats were waiting. And when they came, they would find a galaxy united by the lesson humanity had taught them. Sometimes, the best defense is a good offense, and sometimes the only way to stop a hunter is to become a better one. The hunt was over, but humanity's watch had just begun.